Now, when we talk about financing, there are a number of things that people can talk about. I think Alokji mentioned something about the responsibility of the public sector, especially the government, in the planning process in the Open University. And there are private sector financing the university and colleges. I think we have seen in Nepal, there are numerous schools and colleges being financed by the private sector in Nepal, which are doing extremely good in terms of quality, but they are also sustainable to a large extent. And there are partnership also, public-private partnership. There are charity. There are private institutions, they have invested money and they have returned from that investment, and they invest the money, reinvest the money in the education system. So there are different modalities, but it's good that you have started talking about planning from the very beginning and financing the whole plan from the initial stage. First of all, I think it all depends on what will be the structure and organization of the Open University. Because this morning Alokji was mentioning about targeting the migration group, other people are targeting about the teachers, other people are targeting about some other urban areas, small urban areas and things like that. And some people are even talking about focusing in the rural areas, because I see Pramodji emphasizing so much on the rural areas of Nepal and meeting the gap between the urban development and the rural development in terms of the educational gap. Two things. I think he was also mentioning about what should be some of the basic fundamental characteristics of the university that NRN should talk about. If you ask me, I'll tell you only two things. These two things are flexibility and affordability, basically. Why I am saying the flexibility? I think Alokji was mentioning about immigrants, but I think there are challenges about the immigrants in Nepal. All of these people who are going abroad, these are, yes, I think some of these people have SLC, some of these people have class 12, and maybe some of these people are even graduates, but they don't have skill at all. And what we have seen in Nepal is these people move from rural areas to urban area once they come back from the Middle East, once they come back from Malaysia. So if we are targeting the rural areas and if we are only targeting the immigrants, I think that's also another challenge. May not be feasible. We need to do another study also. So the structure and organization, we need to have the flexibility in the first place. Because without that, we probably cannot even initiate the whole thing. Now talking about affordability, this will be linked with the cost. How we are bearing the cost. I can give you some examples how we can tackle this problem, the problem of costing and financing of the Open University. First of all, government's commitment. The problem with the government is that I think couple of million rupees is not a big problem from the government side. Once you go and approach the finance minister and planning commission, I don't think this is a problem. We have given so much money, but one-time money to many institutions in Nepal, because I worked in the government for a long period of time. But the crux of the problem in Nepal is, one fine morning, the Minister for Education will take a proposal to the cabinet in establishing 5 universities in Nepal. Birganj, Janakpur, Nepalganj, Surkhet, this and that. But without any financing plan and without any structural plan. So I think that has become one of the problems, and the Ministry of Finance is skeptical and highly reluctant on anything that comes as a plan to the university. We have also seen in Nepal, China, India, a number of other countries have donated Polytechnic in Nepal. But just donating the building, donating the equipment doesn't mean the sustainability of the institution. So we need to have teachers, we need to have students. If they cannot afford to go to those schools, we need to give scholarship. So I think there are whole lots of problems. Government is skeptical, suspicious because of the tradition that we have in Nepal. But my feeling is that the government's commitment, government's partnership in this area will not be difficult at all. But longer term commitment, I think the government may not be able to commit for the longer term commitment. So I think one should be cautious about that one. The second is partnership. When I talk about the partnership, definitely diasporas. I don't have to talk about those things. Alokji mentioned about initiating the directory of professionals. We have started in the embassy developing the directory of entrepreneurs and business communities in the United States. That is for a different purpose, for enhancing the trade and investment. We can do similar kind of exercise in US, and I don't think that's a difficult task. Siva Gautam was mentioning me yesterday evening. He probably can develop a methodology even to estimate how many Nepalese are in the United States, legal, illegal, with work permit and things like that. So I think we will have some kind of modality and technology to do that. So I think that's one of the things that we can start doing that. The second is, because in Virginia there is a professor called Lieberman, I guess. He never has been to Nepal, but he is teaching forestry course in Nepal through online. It's a regular teacher from Virginia. He loves to do that. He loves to be participant in Nepali community organizations and activities. He asked me to go and give an interview in Channel 10 in Virginia for 1 hour on environment and development of Nepal. I did that live. Very friendly person. We can find some of these expatriates, as for example, some of the former Peace Corps from Nepal. They love Nepal. They have projects in Nepal. We can find some people from these communities. Not only these communities, I think probably you know much better than I do. This is such a nice place, US. They have so much of resources. I think Pramodji is always talking about dollar, green dollar. But we have so many Nepal lovers. I think I just want to take 2 more minutes. I was in Chicago a couple of days ago, and I was sitting next to one of the billionaires in US, and she's a lady, and she said she used to go to Nepal quite often, and then her father has a house in Mitra Park, another billionaire. Her mother goes to Nepal quite often, another billionaire, and this billionaire was telling me that she took her boyfriend to Nepal and asked her if he loves Nepal, she will marry him. If he doesn't love Nepal, she will not marry him. And the thing what happened is that first day, this lady took this boy to Pashupatinath. And the Pashupatinath, you have cremation of people, dead body, you see lines of dead body. And then this lady asked her boyfriend, do you like this? Do you like Nepal? And then he didn't say anything. Neither he said he liked it, nor he said he didn't. But he was quiet. But the second day, he went to Swayambhunath and all Himalayas, and then he liked the lady, and they got married. They have children now. But she speaks Nepali. She would like to contribute to Nepalese families. I think she has brought several Nepalese families to US and sponsored for higher education, things like that. We have numerous of those people in US. This is a great place, no doubt about that. I think we should try to find out and mobilize these people also. Private sector, although I think Siva Gautam was talking about cross-subsidy, which is very important. Now if you see the Engineering Institute in Nepal doing extremely well, but they have the cross-subsidy. Those who can afford to pay the full tuition fee, they will pay the full tuition fee. Those who cannot afford to pay the full tuition fee, they are subsidized. And they are doing a great job. I think the Institute of Medicine is also doing a great job in Nepal. I think there is this modality is also extremely useful because there are so many people who can afford full tuition fee, especially in Kathmandu area. But the problem here is whether we are talking and targeting the people in Kathmandu. But if we are talking about cross-subsidizing, why not? I think this could be one of the possibilities. Now, the partnership with the private sector, private entrepreneurs and private investors, I think that will be probably difficult in the initial stage because private sector, they always would like to see the return. Yes, in terms of donation, maybe we can approach that. But that, I personally don't have very good experience on that. The reason is that there was a small team made by USA Educational Foundation a long time ago, because the Fulbright East-West Center, Humphrey, they would like to see the participation of the private sector. They would like to see the participation of the government sector to expand their educational program in Nepal. So we tried with some of the big houses in Nepal, but they were not interested. But eventually, I think the government of Nepal gave some money to the USA Educational Foundation, which I think has still continued, and that has done a great job. I think we have started getting more scholarship from the Fulbright East-West Center, more people from US are going to Nepal. So I think there are some possibilities, but the private sector's investment in this area probably is not that great, probably in the initial stage. Now there is another thing from the donors. Yes, I think donors probably can also be made interested. But in Nepal, I was in the planning commission, and then higher education, if we are talking about higher education is not the priority of the donors. I think there are a number of reasons. I don't want to go into details, but we have to find out the needs. Why higher education, why open university is important for Nepal, how you can support it. Just to give you an example, I think there was no support in higher education from the donors. But I was really desperate, because when I was in the planning commission, higher education, we don't get any donors money. We have to give government's revenue all the time, and the expenses of higher education is increasing every day. But government of Nepal, I think just to give you one information, has made a commitment that 17% of the total budget will go to the education every year. If the budget increases by 25%, the budget, the size of the budget of education will go accordingly. If the budget, total budget increases by 10%, but still the share of the education will be 17%. And there is a commitment from the government. So in the education sector, it's increasing, but it's more to the primary school and secondary school, not that much to the higher education. But I just wanted to give you one example. Why donors have to support to the higher education? We did a study. I think there was a study done in Nepal. Only 2% of the girls who graduate from the public school go to higher education. So we found out that only 2% of the girls who graduate from the public school go to the higher education. So that become a crux, meaning that, see, the poor people cannot go to the higher education. So why don't we support the higher education in Nepal? Yes, I think the World Bank and some donors have started providing some support, but they wanted to do the change in the policy. They don't want to give money just like that, but they want to tie it up with change in the policy, which is good. I didn't want to go into details about that, but I think that's the situation. I just want to give you some information. I think we need to have some kind of research done so that we can mobilize the people from the donors. Technology partnership, I think that's also one of the things that probably we can do. The reason I'm saying is that there is a telephone company from US very much interested in providing help to the Nepalese communities, is working in the eastern part of Nepal, also working with, I guess, Mahavir Kun, and they are working with new technologies by which, I think I just found out a few weeks ago that with about 20-25,000 US dollar, they can have a sustainable internet facilities, telephone facility for the whole village. I think they are working on it, but if it is done, probably we can have access to many people. So I think the technology partnership is also important. There is another one, I think, related with the technology. When we are talking about internet service provider, then there is also a new project in US. This is called IT project, where each student in the school will get a computer for $200. I don't know how they are doing it. Maybe it's they are making it cheaper. But this is one of the projects that has been developed by the US government. after this disaster in Haiti.